Hello! If you haven't already figured that out, I've gone completely PCB crazy and I've been sitting in easy EDA and just figuring out new solutions to problems I have had or have from time to time, and doing all these PCBs, which you've probably seen. The proto board is the most obvious one that I've been running a long time now, and which is sold out again on my Tindiepage, so there are more coming of that one with a few alterations that have been suggested and that I figured out once people started using them. And also the PSU power supply, which I did a video on last week. And today I'd like to talk about surface mounted components. So it started with 8-pin surface mount components. I did a PCB run for these. You can find these on the internet all over the place for just a few dollars for 8 or something of these. They're usually SOIC8, and on the back side they have the even smaller one, SOP8, I think it's called. I forgot that one, but usually they have two variants. So this was my first prototype where I forgot the backside, and then I did another one. Let's find a big sheet here. So here's the full sheet of 8x8 solder mounted ICs that so far can accommodate SOIC8, TSOT23, TSOT5, TSOT26, SO8, TSSOP8, TSOT23-8. There's so many variants of soldered or surface mounted components, and to have one of these, so the end result is this 1x1 centimeter PCB, and to have one of these for each and every component is, well, you just want, what would be perfect would have one of these that would accommodate them all. That is not probable. I think I have managed to get quite many in here by some so I'll show you a close-up of this and we'll discuss this. There's one with this one, the version 2 of this one, is that the backside it's not flipped, but it is correct, but the solder mask is a bit wrong showing. So that's the only thing. I have a 2.1 of this coming up. What I'll do is, because this is so common and you can buy these anywhere, I'll put these on my Tindiepage for those of you who don't want to order your own PCBs. But if you need a lot of these, I'm going to open source or whatever, I'm going to make so you can just download these from my Patreon page without being a Patreon. So this one is on me. Still, if you want to become my Patreon, which a lot of people are, thank you to those of you who are, you can become a Patreon, of course, but you don't have to download this one. So I'll just show you a close-up of this and just solder a few different components onto this one to show how that would work. And yeah, if you want just a few, visit my Tindiepage. If you want a whole bunch, so that would be if you use JLC PCB. I'm no affiliation, but I know you can get 5 of these PCBs for $2, and there's 64 on each of these, so that would probably last you quite a long time. So let's look at solder one of these and look at how we can do that. Here you can see the 2 sides of the board, and the top side accommodates the wider pin configuration, and as you can see there are 2 sizes. Those bigger ones here are for the SOIC8, and then these 3 here in the middle I believe is for TSOT23 -5 and 6. So let's get some components in here so you can see. So here's a SOIC8 component and EEPROM in this case. So that's supposed to sit like that, and we'll solder that in place in a bit. Here's a TSOT23-5, and so this one has 5 pins, and it is really small. I really should have a tweezer for this. I do not. That is a very important tool I've heard when working with soldered surface mounted components. Like so. So the 6 ones that is on the first 6 pins, or first 3 pins on both sides, is for TSOT23, 5 and 6, and other TSOT23 and up to 6, I should say. So if we remove that one, here is also, I found an SOT23-3. So this one also is possible to put over these 3 pins. Now these are so small components, but then you get to the other side and the components are even smaller, and not because they're small, but because I don't have any, I think. So I don't have any components I can show how this one works. Let's solder some of these onto the board so you can see how to do that. Let's begin with a simple one. I don't think anything in surface mount is simple. So this is actually the first time I do this. And I'm going to just, because there's no marking on this one, so I'm just going to guess that this is pin 1 because the text is like that. There is no marking telling me which is which here. So let's see what I'm doing. So this is an EEPROM 2 kilobytes 256 times 8 I2C. So that's for, I want to try some EEPROMs with the Arduino to save more data in memory. So to solder, to do this with surface mount, what I've heard is that you're supposed to just add a dab of solder to one of the pads and solder this one the one leg to that pad, and then afterwards it's easier to add all the other ones. So you add this one pad to align them all, so to say. So there's a small dab, and we add the IC. I'd say something like that. So I'm just gonna use this to push it down, and I'm gonna heat that one pin up. And that one's stuck. And the other ones are within their space, so let's add some more solder to those one and make sure that we have contact. Oh, look at that. You're not supposed to have much, that's for sure. So with an empty solder iron we can, sometimes it's possible to flick it away. Can't do that here. I'm gonna do this. So there's loads of solder here now, and I think that side is all, it's connected but a bit too much. So now we're gonna find some solder wick, and we're gonna use that to just take some of this away. I believe that did it. So those should now be correct. And the other pins. Let's see if we can make that a bit easier. Just taking a small dab. That, I'd say that also seems to have worked. So let's make sure we have connection all the way. So that worked fine. So now we have an EEPROM chip which is through-hole instead, and just of course we need to add some headers to that. Let's try these really tiny pieces instead. So let's start with a TSOT23. So that is that's a J201, so a form of JFET transistor, I think, which I was going to use to build some synth module, but because I got these little buggers instead of a through-hole component, I had to give that up for that moment, and then instead I went and made these boards. So again, let's add the tiniest amount of solder. something like that perhaps. So next thing I'm gonna buy in tools is a tweezer. It kind of sank into place there. Let's see if we can get this one. Whoa. And we got that blob thing again, so some wick on that. Really doesn't matter because there's no pins next to it, but just for the sake of it. And make sure that we have connection. That should be that pin. That pin should be that one, and that one should be that one. Yep. Also works. And this was a TSOT23-5, and that's also the same side. So let's add that one as well. And this one is also an EEPROM, 2 kilobytes. Again, I'm gonna add just a dab here. And let's do that IC dance again. Let's look at that. That looks fine. So add the other one. No. So because I continue with the pin just next to it, I of course got the other pin wet, or got the other pin loose, and it spun. So let's take here instead. Check it. Yep. So in my hand I hold the 3 first surface mounted soldered components I've ever made. So what you saw today is truly the first surface mount soldering I've done. With that said, that might give you an indication on how easy/hard it might be to surface mount something. And we've only used the easy side. The bottom side with the even smaller components, I would guess you would need a lot of solder wick or something to fix that. But it's good to know that it is possible to get solder mounted components into your through-hole project. So again, if you want to have the Gerber files for these, go to my Patreon and download them without becoming my Patreon. And if you only want a few, then you can go to my Tindiepage and buy a few there. If you bought anything on my Tindiepage the recent weeks, then you probably have gotten some of these or the green ones along with you in that package. I do send a few other tidbits around. Yes, that's it for today. Hope you liked this video, and I will see you in the next one. Take care. Bye.